Hello, my name is Mike Berkey. I am the Vice President of Corporate Development and a Director of Sitka Gold. I'm going to present to you on Sitka Gold today, mostly focused on the RC Gold project up in the Yukon, but I'll briefly touch on some of our other projects that are located all in great jurisdictions in North America. Went through the forward-looking statement. I'm a geologist, so you can rest assured that I'll probably make some forward-looking statements in here. Sitka, not only do we have our flagship project in the Yukon, the RC Gold Project. It's a new intrusion-related gold system discovered within the Tombstone Gold Belt. The discovery drill hole was late in 2021, but we've also just finished drilling on the Alpha Gold Project in Nevada. That's a Carlin-style target that is just south of the Cortez Mine Complex in Nevada. That's a conceptual target that was started to work on back in 2019, and it's gone from a concept to a discovery as we've intersected both the Carlin-style alteration and mineralization in recent drilling. In 2020, we did 1,500 meters of drilling. There's a couple drill holes left to report on there, so those are in the lab, and we're looking forward to those results. We also have the Burrow Creek project in Arizona. It's a large outcropping epithermal gold silver system. It's got a historical resource, 5 million ounces of silver and 120,000 ounces of gold. So that has excellent potential for expansion. We also have a couple of base metal projects, the OGI in the Yukon. That's a sedimentary exhalative zinc, silver, lead target. Just in the Selwyn Basin. And we also have the Coppermine River project in Nunavut. It's a large land package, 50,000 hectares, with both bulk tonnage and high-grade copper targets on there. No secret, Coppermine River in Nunavut. That was the location of one of the biggest staking rushes back in, I believe it was the 60s in Canada. So there's a lot of potential up there for copper, and we have a project located there. But I'm going to focus on the RC Gold project. It's a 376 square kilometer intrusion-related gold project in the heart of Yukon's Tintina Gold Belt, where there's been some great discoveries recently. It's road accessible. It's a large land package, as I mentioned. Late in 2021, we had a new discovery there. It's the Blackjack zone. We received the results of that around Christmas time. So hole 21 returned 220 meters of 1.17 grams per ton gold. So that spurred the company to do an additional two-phase drilling program in 2022. The first phase was in the winter, February and March. As I mentioned, the project is road accessible, so we're able to drill year-round there, not a problem. So we did the winter drilling program, 4 holes, about 1,500 meters, 1,200 meters actually, and then in the summer we followed up with an additional 16 holes for another 5,200 meters, so about 6,500 meters of drilling in 20 holes this year. We have most of the results back. We're still waiting on 2 drill holes from the Blackjack discovery and one other regional target that we poked 1 hole into. We've also done some initial metallurgical test work that demonstrate it's non-refractory gold, very similar to our peers, other people exploring in the Tombstone Gold Belt, Victoria Gold, the Eagle Mine, Fort Knox in Alaska. These intrusion-hosted systems aren't typically refractory. We had recoveries in bottle roll tests of averaging 85% and up to 94%. So it's good stuff. We're happy about that. So if you don't know where RC Gold is located, it's within the Tintina Gold Province, but specifically in there's the Tombstone Gold Belt, which is a belt you can see in the pink there of 98 million year old Cretaceous age intrusions that stretch across Yukon and Alaska. They're offset by the Tintina Fault. So the Fort Knox mine in Alaska and the Eagle Gold project, the Eagle Gold mine of Victoria Gold in the Yukon. Twin sisters, same age intrusions, very similar looking rocks, same style of mineralization. And that's exactly what we're looking for at the RC Gold project, or what we found hosted within one of these Tombstone Suite intrusions. We are drilling off a similar style of mineralization. So again, here's just another map that shows the northern Canadian Cordillera, and the RC Gold project is hosted within that Tombstone Gold Belt. So what's really important about this is these 98 million year old intrusions have a very prolific gold endowment to them. But our peers, the Fort Knox gold mine in Alaska, it's been operating for a number of years. Currently, their proven and probable reserves are 230 million tons at a grade of 0.3 grams per ton. So that's almost 2.5 million ounces. The Eagle gold mine of Victoria Gold, prior to mining, they had a measured and indicated resource of 214 million tons, grading 0.63 grams per ton. That's at a 0.15 gram per ton cutoff, so a little over 4 million ounces. And recently, Banyan Gold has released an inferred mineral resource on the Ormac project of 207 million tons, grading 0.6 grams per ton gold with a 0.2 to 0.3 gram per ton cutoff. So those mining grades and the resource grades all around 0.6 grams per ton gold and lower. So these are bulk tonnage, low grade targets. But those grades and those cutoff grades are really the target that we're looking for is drill intersections in that neck of the woods, and we're very pleased that we're getting many intersections of 1 gram per ton plus over quite significant widths. So keep that in mind as I go through some of the results. So here's our land package. We're located midway between Dawson City and Mayo. And on our large land package, we're in the bright yellow there. You can see the pink areas. Those are Tombstone Sweet intrusions that come up in our land package. To the north of us is Florin Gold. They have a resource up in there. And this green is Victoria Gold also has a project. But we're exploring this little belt up here. That's where we're focused. And the Blackjack zone is within this saddle intrusion. There's an extensional zone that helps emplace these intrusions here that runs kind of east-west, and that's the focus. So our initial results, 220 meters at 1.17, better than resource grade at Victoria Gold, so got us very excited, and we continued working. This is a significant placer gold district as well. There's a few placer gold mines. It's been mined for over 100 years in there, and so it's a very prolific area. It's largely underexplored, obviously, with us making this discovery in 2021, given that the area is very accessible by road. So there's a lot of potential in this neck of the woods, and we're happy that we're discovering some of that. So here's a close in. This is that extensional zone that I talked about that emplaces the Saddlestock, Eiger, and Josephine. We're focused in the Blackjack area in here. But you'll see from the next slides, this extensional zone is defined. This is a mapping by Aaron Marsh back in the mid-90s. It's defined by some Lamprofear dikes and Felsic dikes and this linear kind of alignment of these intrusions. These are different style of intrusions. The Eiger zone where we've drilled is a diorite. The saddle stock is a quartz monzonite. And you can see the variety Josephine is a granodiorite. So these are multi-phase intrusions in here, very active area, and it's produced a nice gold anomaly, golden soils in here that really brought us into the area to follow up on this. But this is where we're focused, is this 2-kilometer belt in here. In 2020, they drilled on the edge of the Eiger, midway where there's some intrusions here. This is called the Saddle Zone, and then the Blackjack discovery. So there was 3 areas, and those were drilled. And then of course the focus has been Blackjack, where the best results were returned. But there's a lot of potential left in this belt that we need to still work on. So again, here's just that's cartooned up a little bit so you can see that extensional area. There's other extensional areas, of course, but this is our property outline. Here's the Blackjack. We've also drilled across this extensional zone and in the Eiger. So we've done various different types of work, LiDAR, magnetics. These are reduced intrusions, so they don't produce a beautiful magnetic signature that shows you the intrusions. You can see these white outlines that show this is the Saddlestock and the Eiger and the Josephine, so no distinct magnetic pattern, but we can do some more work with our magnetics to hopefully glean some information out of that. But we've also compiled, obviously, historical work. This project has been worked on in the past. Noranda, Golden Predator worked in there. Noranda back in the 90s, Golden Predator in 2011 and 12. In the background here is the soil geochemistry. Bear in mind, if there's not soil geochem showing up, that doesn't mean it's not a potentially good area, because this is mountainous terrain. There's northerly slopes. There's areas that you can't sample because it's blocky talus. But obviously here, where we've got a great soil response over the Saddle and Blackjack area and in the Eiger, that's where we've focused in the last few years. So in 2020, three areas, again, I keep saying four, I don't know why, but 3 areas were drilled in the Eiger, midway in the Saddle, and then that Blackjack discovery. So there was some sniffs in the past, but we certainly, that 2020 drilling, as you'll see, produced some really good results in all 3 of those areas. And then the discovery at Blackjack really spurred the company on to focus in that area. We've done LiDAR over the area. So this is LiDAR lineament density. So you can see here's the Saddle stock, the Eiger stock over here. There are areas, there's some breccia bodies up here, and we can see that there's some good density of lineaments. So that may point to some areas that allow those mineralizing fluids a little bit more. But you can see here in the next slide, the geochem doesn't necessarily align with it, but that could be a remnant of the type of sampling there. So a little more work to do, but obviously, again, we've focused in this extensional zone here. The LiDAR, as well as oriented core, we've done oriented core, shows us is no real surprise. Within the Tombstone Belt in Yukon, there's a very common orientation to the mineralizing veins, and that's kind of east-west, 110 degrees in that neck of the woods. So the surface lineaments from that LiDAR survey kind of show the preferred directions of those surface lineaments that help them place those veins, and we do see that in our oriented core. So initially, the drilling in there was oriented based on historical knowledge of the emplacement of these bodies and what we're seeing in the past. But our oriented core has shown that the main mineralizing event seems to be kind of an east-west pattern. So our drilling has cross-cut that, and that's what we're seeing, that those mineralized veins are kind of in that east-west orientation. So that helps us decide our drill orientation, and that's why we're drilling kind of to the northwest a little bit here. So you can see initially there was a couple of holes in the Eiger, one in the Saddle, and one in the Blackjack in 2020. 2021 focus was on the Eiger, but the final hole of the season, hole 21 in 2021, hence the Blackjack name, was drilled into this Blackjack area and hit that 220 meters. So this whole extensional zone, however, is still a great target. So what we did in 2022, obviously, we focused in and around this Blackjack area, stepping laterally out from this intrusion, where we see mineralization carrying on into the surrounding metasedimentary rocks. So we're encouraged by that, obviously. We're seeing the best mineralization within the intrusion, but we're still hitting significant grades and widths in the surrounding metasedimentary rocks. This hole, for instance, that was drilled in 2020 up here in the Saddle, intersected was 80 meters of 0.5, I believe. Anyways, I think I got a table on that I'll show you. But so there's a lot of potential within this belt, and you can see it reflected in the geochemistry. And there was great results in the Eiger too that we still need to carry on. It's open in all directions. So as I mentioned there's multiple phases of intrusions. Here is the quartz monzonite that we see in the Saddle stock, where the Blackjack zone is. So it's quite a bit different than the diorite that we see in the Eiger. Don't really see a difference, I believe, in the potential of these stocks. These are earlier stage. The waning phases of fluids are the gold-bearing phase that are placed into these stocks or these intrusions. So good potential in both of them. We're not looking for a particular intrusive type to find this gold. So as well as the surrounding metasedimentary rocks are mineralized as well, and we just see, you can see it better in the diorite here, but just these narrow gold veins or gold-bearing veins that intersect the intrusions or the metasediments and carry the gold values. So here's highlights from the Blackjack Saddle Eiger corridor that we call it. So you can see hole 21, again from surface, 220 meters at 1.17, and then 22 through 25 were the winter drilling program, 100-meter step outs in and around hole 21. Actually, some scissored down, some stepped back 100 meters and 100 meters east to west, but they all intersected some pretty significant results. You can see 273 meters of a half a gram. That includes 62 at 1.2. From surface, 205 of 1.01. Again, very close to surface. 107 meters of 1.44 and hole 24. And 25 hit 349 meters of 0.71. That includes 220 meters of 1.01 grams per ton. These holes stepped out, so they're in the surrounding. Just 29 just clipped the intrusion, but also has numbers in the surrounding metasediments, so we can see some pretty significant widths and grades within the surrounding metasedimentary rocks. As I mentioned, the saddle zone, which is a kilometer away between the Blackjack and the Eiger, kilometer from each. I was right there, 84 meters of just better than half a gram. And then the Eiger, where the drilling was focused in 2021 and until that last hole of the season. You can see some very significant widths here, 300 meters of 0.36, 318 of 0.4. So you get the idea here. Very long, large intersections of significant mineralization, a little lower grade than the Blackjack, but still significant when we compare them to our peers at Fort Knox, Victoria Gold, and Banyan. So, of course, we're focused on the Blackjack. We're still open both laterally as we move towards the saddle and the Eiger zone that's further to the east, as well as to the north and the south within the saddle stock itself. And you can see the color coding on these holes that show the mineralized areas. We are still intersecting mineralized metasedimentary host rocks as we step out there with significant grades and thicknesses. Not as high grade as within the intrusion itself, but there's a number of intrusive dikes and sills in here. The rock exposure isn't great in here, so we're going to have to find more concentrations of those within this area, probably from drilling. Here's the Blackjack discovery hole. Again, that was 220 meters of 1.17 grams per ton. It intersected again within the intrusion, and then of course we stepped out from that. Here's the Blackjack cross section where we stepped out in winter drilling. We scissored down, stepped back 100 meters, and intersected similar results over a couple hundred meters of better than a gram. So great results there. Here's some of the winter drilling going on. Hole 24 was the most westerly, intersected mineralization within the intrusion as well as in the surrounding metasedimentary rocks. And 25 was the most easterly, again, focused in the intrusion, but also got some sniffs around some of those metasedimentary rocks and a really big, nice, thick intersection that we see there, 349 meters at 0.71 with some higher grade cores to it. So, as I mentioned, in 2020, we drilled all three of those zones, hit very good grades and thicknesses, followed up mostly in the Eiger, but then with the discovery in the Blackjack late in the season, that's been the focus in the last few years. Here's the saddle, that 80 meters of half a gram Eiger, some drilling you see, good gold mineralization within the intrusion, but also as we step out into the metasediments, we hit some good grades there. So a lot of work to follow up on the Eiger intrusion, but as well as that whole intervening area between Saddle and Eiger. We do get visible gold, associated with bismuthinite, so bismuth, arsenic, similar to all the other tombstone sweet intrusions that people are exploring. So no real secrets there, but we do get some nice visible gold. We look for that, of course, because everybody likes to see it. And when we see that, of course, visually, we know we're in the goods. But again, got to wait for the assays before we know how good it really is. So yeah, it's commonly associated with bismuthinite, but also arsenopyrite and some other styles of mineralization. Here's correlation coefficients within the Blackjack zone. We can see the correlation between gold, bismuth, tellurium. Prominent in the Eiger, we also get an association with lead and antimony, and a little bit with sulfur. So maybe Eiger is a little bit more peripheral, slightly different than the Blackjack. So a little bit of work on our geochemistry that'll hopefully help us vector into where these mineralized fluids are really coming from. Might be a little deeper. Maybe Eiger's a little more peripheral. Blackjack is a little more closer to the guts of the system. So again, here's some intrusive hosted mineralization. Tough to see, but there's some little veins in here that carry the gold. That's just an example of mineralization that ran 4.27 grams per ton. It doesn't look too spectacular in there. Again, here's the silicious metasedimentary rocks. Again, just these little veins cross-cutting the metasediments, and they're similarly mineralized as what we see in the intrusive rocks. So, significant grades and thicknesses in those metasedimentary rocks outside of the intrusion. So a lot of work to do between here and the Saddle. That's where that 80 meters of half a gram were, and we're hitting significant hits in here. Hole 29 and 31 were right in here, where they hit over a 65 to 116 meters of around that half gram. So there's some definite significant mineralization within these metasedimentary rocks. There we go. Again, just a cross section in those metasedimentary rocks showing some of those drill intersections. Hole 33, 29, and 31. So yeah, we're following up on that as well, stepping out, as I mentioned, in this extensional corridor, both to the east and the west, and towards the Eiger zone. Yes, so we have a very experienced board of directors. Cork Ho, our chairman and CEO, is a geologist, as well as Don Penner and myself. Scott Price, our geologist down in Nevada, VP Exploration, very experienced on our Nevada projects and our US projects. Greg Dawson as well, a geologist. And yeah, so we've got a strong group there. Very important in any organization, have a strong board, and also our advisory board. We have Craig Hart, mentor and friend I worked with for many years at the Yukon Geological Survey, expert on these tombstone related intrusions and the deposits associated with them. So yeah, very, very good group. Yeah, so that concludes my talk. So for more information on the RC Gold Project, which this talk focuses on, but also our other projects in Nevada, Arizona, and Nunavut, go to our website and check us out. There's more information there. So thank you very much and have a great day.